It's time for our yearly standing rib roast, otherwise known as prime rib. Just a note here that prime rib does not have to be prime. In fact, less than 2% of all meat is actually qualified as prime. If you go to your local supermarket, butcher shop, most of the food that you're going to see is going to be choice cut, okay? And that's a fine cut of meat. The one below that's going to be select. So what we have here is a standing rib roast. It is choice. Cost-wise, they run about, anywhere from $13 to $14 a pound. You can see this one here was $193. It's a 6-bone, weighs 15 and a half pounds. If you wait to the end of the year, around, I don't know, the 15th of December, you can get a really good deal. We basically spent about 85 bucks on this, so it's a great deal. Stand by, and we're going to go ahead and get this thing unpackaged and all seasoned up and put in the oven, and we'll walk you through the process. How many people it will feed? This question often comes up. Basically, it's 2 people per bone. So if you have 6 total bones, that would be about 12 fully famished adults. That's the way I kind of look at it. I make a little bit more if necessary. Love the leftovers. There's a lot you can do with the prime rib. But we have a family of 8, and so we'll have a little bit of leftover, but plenty to eat for everyone. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to prepare our meat to put into the oven. So what I'd like to do is I get some whole garlic. I get it smashed up a little bit here. What we're going to do is we're going to insert that directly into the meat at the top. And I'll show you how we do that. So we're just going to go ahead and cut slits in the meat, and then we're going to go ahead and shove some of that garlic down in there. All right. So at this point, I have the garlic into the prime rib. I've got a couple of holes per section. All right. The butcher already wrapped it with the cooking string there, so it's going to be held together. My prime rib has bone in, so that's all ready to go. Now we're going to give this baby a rub down. All right, everyone loves a rub down. We got some butter, unsalted. Don't be afraid to get dirty in here. What we're going to do is we're simply going to take this butter. I'm going to rub this whole prime rib, this whole standing rib roast down. This is our fully coated with butter standing rib roast. We got the end caps already done. I didn't do the actual bottom, but I did wrap the butter all around on the sides. Okay, so that is ready to go. Okay guys, for dry seasoning, what I use is coarse ground pepper, garlic powder, celery salt, onion powder, Himalayan pink salt, and some parsley flakes. Now, what I'm not going to be able to do for you is give you exact measurements. I do this all by look and feel. It is like a pepper type of a bark, so I use a lot of pepper. Don't be afraid to coat this thing with the seasoning. Keep in mind that you want kind of a crusty outer shell. That's how we're going to flavor the meat is by seeping into the meat itself, okay? So let's come back. I'll show you how that looks when I get it all mixed up. All right, so when there's my dry rub, my mix. We want a thorough coating. We want it to be fairly even. One of the things, don't get your hand dirty or wet. Just kind of sprinkle it on a little bit like this. And again, it has to be a little bit thicker. The reason why you don't want to get your hand caked is that it'll just be a mess on your hand and you won't be able to get it off. So we're going to get this thing really nicely coated. If I don't have enough dry rub, I can always make some more. Just be careful with the onion powder and the celery salt and all that stuff. That has some saltiness to it, so be careful when you're adding salt itself, not to add too much. One thing I forgot to mention before, it's absolutely critical that your standing rib roast come to room temperature prior to doing anything that we did previously. I took my standing rib roast out at about, probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's right now, it's about 1 o'clock. So I let it basically sit out room temperature for about 2.5 to 3 hours, okay? Really critical when you do that. You don't want to cook meat that's cold in the middle and thawed on the outside. You want to make sure that the whole thing is pretty even. All right, a couple things that you want to take note of. First off, we're done. This thing has been all dry rubbed down. It's ready to go. It's been seasoned. I usually just purchase a disposable pan. Later, we'll go in and make some gravy, and I'll show a video on that. So this is sitting in there perfectly set up to go ahead and throw in the oven. Now, cooking times, and this is where you're going to want to make note of this stuff. Really critical. So for ribs, which have 3 ribs, which is about a 7 to 8 pound standing rib roast, it's going to be 15 minutes at 450 degrees. Regardless of the weight of your standing rib roast, you're always going to start out 450 degrees for 15 minutes. And then you're going to drop it down to 325 degrees. Okay, so for a 7 to 8 pound standing rib roast, you're looking at 1.25 to 1.5 hours of cooking. Okay, for mine, which is a six bone, it's 14 to 16 pounds. We're about a 15.5 pounds here. I'm going to throw it in the oven for 450 degrees for 15 minutes, and then it's going to take 2 3/4 of an hour to 3 hours at 325 degrees. Okay. At the end of this video, I'll go ahead and post the various weights and the temperatures and times for your reference later. And so this is getting ready to actually go into the oven. My oven is preheated to 450. This is about ready to go in. I'm not going to cover it. We're going to put it in at 450, let it cook for 15 minutes, then drop it down to 325 and let the magic happen. As you can see, there's not a lot to this. It's hard to screw it up. If you do too much salt, maybe that would mess it up, but otherwise it's good to go. You're going to want to invest in a meat thermometer. And the reason why is you want to get this thing to 121 degrees. That's what you want to check it prior to pulling it out of the oven. Once it's at 121 degrees, you want to pull that thing out. You want to cover it, tent it with some aluminum foil, and let it sit. It should reach to about 127, 128, and that's a nice medium. All right, guys, so I've taken the roast out of the oven. I checked the temperature. It was about 120 total, and it did go a little bit longer. It looks like it cooked for about 4 hours total. So now it's sitting in its pan. I haven't done anything there. I just covered it with aluminum foil for about 20 minutes. And what that'll do is it should reach a temperature of about 125, 126. And that should be perfect for a standing rib roast for medium rare. Okay, now we have the unveiling of the standing rib roast. So that's been sitting for about 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do the temperature. I pulled it out at 120. So you want to make sure when you put it in, don't hit a bone. Get it right into the middle. And the sweet spot's about 125 to 128. We'll see what she is. Well, we just went past 128 we're at 130, so now that's medium rare. It's still medium rare up to 134, 132. And yep, we're stopped at basically 133. So between 130 and 135 is medium rare. All right, here we go. We're going to go ahead and cut that. And that's the end. So of course it's going to be a little bit more well done. That has a nice peak center. It'll get better as we get into the roast. And that's it. Not too hard. Enjoy. Leave me a comment. Bye.